In any location, when the temperature goes 4.5 degrees Celsius above the normal, we would call it a heat wave. Add another 2 degrees to it and we would call it a severe heat wave. Since it is relative to the normal, in the plains of India, 45 degrees Celsius might be a heat wave and 47 a severe heat wave. But in the coastal areas, even 37 might be a heat wave, or in a hilly area, even 30 degrees Celsius might be called a heat wave. The official declaration depends on 2 stations within a meteorological division, recording these conditions for a minimum of 2 consecutive days. Till a few years ago, the biggest concern around heat waves used to be heat stroke. So we were told that if you would go out during the day when it's really hot, your body starts becoming hot, your sweat glands stop functioning, so you stop sweating, heat accumulates, you may get dizzy, you may get fever, and basically some organs also start failing. In recent years, we are seeing a shift from this to indoor heat effects. So because of the kind of buildings that we are now constructing and living in, now what's happening is that the day temperature goes high, but the night temperature also stays high, so you don't get a break. What that leads to is what we are calling heat stress. So you might not literally get a heat stroke, which would have been potentially fatal, but you start feeling discomfort, skin rashes, cramps, and basically a loss of productivity also. So with these shifts, we are also seeing additional impacts of other factors, one of which, a primary one, is humidity. If the humidity is higher, then even in a temperature of 37 degrees, your body may reduce the amount of sweat it produces. So you will stop losing heat, and that would again lead to heat stresses, potentially even a heat stroke. Now, it needs to be borne in mind, therefore, that besides the temperature and weather conditions, what also impacts you is the kind of clothing you're wearing, the kind of building that you are in, and the kind of person you are, how fit you are, how old you are, how well you've maintained your body. So heat levels will impact different people differently, and so we can't literally go by just the temperature figures. Since the impact of heat is so location specific and so individual specific, the most important thing is for individuals to know their risks and know when to do what. Buildings can be passively cooled rather than so much of air conditioning and so much of cooling that we do through devices. Through windows, through greenery, through right orientation of our openings, through treating our walls, we can really cool buildings down. Cool roofs, which is literally white roofs that reflect light and heat, are a major step towards reducing heat, since much of the heat is gained from the roof. Similarly, neighborhoods and cities can be cooled down through very clever design, and this is very inexpensive to implement. The National Disaster Management Authority has a guidelines on heat, and many states and cities that suffer from this are also bringing out heat action plans. These would give us directions, and more larger interventions can be based on them, but I would underscore that individual understanding, knowledge and action is the most crucial part of tackling heat. The way you feel heat when you open your car doors on a summer afternoon, imagine what would be happening in tin shacks in which a lot of people live in slums, be it in Delhi or Nagpur or Dhaka. When the ambient temperature outside is about 37 degrees Celsius, the indoors in a slum house of this kind can be 47, 48 degrees Celsius. And who's indoor at that time? It's mostly very small children, their mothers, old people, people with disabilities who can't really step out. There's no space in these settlements to go to a shaded area and hang around. So we work in these areas. We do scientific studies to understand how heat is evolving, how it is impacting people, and how it can be reduced. We work with very local, innovative solutions that come from within these communities, like cool roofs, painting your roofs, shading them, like green walls and green roofs, which is basically growing food on your walls and your roofs that can give you nutrition but also keep you cooler. We also work with schools as part of our school safety program that we run in many cities. In Delhi, last year we were working with schools struggling with heat during the months of April and May. We were painting their roofs along with children. We were measuring temperatures indoors and see how they change over time. And in these ways, we look at how local action, which is affordable through cool roofs, through green walls, through just understanding on what can be done, can be driven by communities themselves, can be learnt by children and taken forward. We're also trying to deploy more technologies to see how we can track impacts of indoor heat through satellite imagery and artificial intelligence to see how these initiatives, which are right now very small ones, can be scaled and more people can be covered. Urban heat islands is a phenomenon in cities where they are much warmer than the surrounding rural areas. This basically happens because there's so much concrete, hard surfaces, roads, buildings that absorb heat during the day and then they give it off at night. So the primary feature that you see here is that the nighttime difference in temperature will be very high. And this gets worse if there are weak winds, so the dissipation of heat does not happen. The larger a city, the hotter it will be, and the heat island will be far more prominent in big cities. It will be seen everywhere across the country. Very difficult to say which cities will see it more because it's relative to the surrounding and it's dependent on how concretized your city is. Basically, it's dependent on how we've built our cities, and that's something we need to rethink. People living in heat-prone zones need to be aware, especially of warnings that are sent out by the Met Department. Besides conventional media, nowadays there are many apps that very precisely can give you what the conditions are going to be where exactly you are. Don't step out during the peak heat hours. Wear loose clothes and comfortable clothes that would keep you cooled down. Try to be in passively cooled spaces. I would just add that avoid air conditioning alone. There can be buildings, as we've discussed, that can keep you cooler. And finally, be aware of any early signs that you see of a heat stress stepping in. Before things get too bad, you need to be able to act